Trump just gave a speech to joint address, I should say, to Congress, and I'm going to criticize it in plenty of ways, but and I know it's a low bar, but I actually think that was Trump's best speech that he's ever given, and partly because he was on teleprompter, and of course someone else wrote the speech, but that's normal, guys. I mean, I don't want to pull the Republican thing of, oh my God, he's a teleprompter president. All the presidents are on teleprompters, and their speeches are all written by other people. But they have to approve them, they have to edit them, and you could tell when Trump did the editing with when he put in words like disaster and not winning anymore, and now he's winning, and I get all that. But look, and I don't want you to think that I agree with this speech, although there are a couple parts I do agree with, which I'll tell you in a second. But I thought that it played fairly well. It was much more hopeful than any of the other speeches that he gives. It was less about attacking people, and honestly, used fear-mongering fairly well, populism really well. There was some emotional porn in there, and there was a family member of Ryan Owens, who died in the Yemen raid. They did, of course, the dad, who didn't even want to meet Trump, was not there, not talked about, and he quotes his own defense secretary as saying that it was absolutely useful when we have all the information now saying that it was not useful. That's not an outside source you can quote, okay? And I hated the fear mongering on immigration, on the Middle East, and whatever Muslim ban he's going to propose and all that stuff. But the populism, I think, kind of worked. I always look at it from two perspectives. Is it true? Do I agree with it? Disagree with it? Then the second perspective, and there, of course, I don't agree with most of it, but the second perspective that I look at it is, was it an effective speech for the average American sitting at home? And I think that this was surprisingly effective because it hit so many populist strands: trade, infrastructure, immigration, defense, America first, jobs, and so I think it probably played well. So that's our job here at the Young Turks, is to keep it real. It was not his usual buffoonish speech, which he does off prompter, and so written fairly well. Now let me explain the two parts that I actually agree with. One is that he talked about fair trade. That's a progressive position, and he outflanked the Democrats on that. Now, most Americans go, oh yeah, I want free trade, but I also want fair trade. That makes sense. And it's a position that Democrats could have made or should have made all the way throughout. But of course, they're too busy taking donor money, so they let Trump outflank them on that populist position. It is maddening that they did that. And then the Republicans yelled at Obama for spending too much money on stimulus. Now Trump proposes $1 trillion on infrastructure. Well, I love that plan. Go, spend it. Let's double it. I agree. But again, the Democrats let Trump outflank them. It's maddening. They're such an incompetent party. So bottom line on this speech is that if you're keeping it real, I think that it probably played well with the average American. They don't know all the details that we know about the parts that he's fudging, the parts that he's not telling the truth on, things that can't work. And in the long run, he won't be able to do a great number of these things. I mean, he said, okay, it's radical Islamic terrorism and I'm going to extinguish ISIS. All right, I'm putting a clock on it. When are you going to extinguish ISIS? I hope so, but that's really not how it works. And so when he doesn't extinguish ISIS, when he doesn't bring you jobs, when he doesn't build a wall, then of course it's going to be a different story. So that's my substantive take on the speech. But as a matter of theater, I thought it was the best job he's ever done, and I think credit where credit is due, probably was somewhat effective. Might get his popularity all the way up from 39% to 42%. So as much as I disagreed with big parts of it, it's a super low bar, but that was almost definitely his best speech ever.